This is Karen with newclevelandradio.net, and it is time for Avoid the Maze, your journey through life. We're all on a journey, and when we're on that journey, we hit the wall at least once in our life. I've hit it many, many times, and there have been times I've stood there staring at the wall thinking, I have no place to go. But if you look to your right, look to your left, guess what? You can find a path. My guest today is Katharine Giovanni, and she's an expert in forgiveness. And I cannot wait to hear about this because I will tell you, we're living in stressful times and we're pointing the finger at each other. And sometimes you want to say, oh, I'm sorry, it's my fault, but you really don't mean that. But you think you have to do it just to get along. So, Katharine, take us on a journey and explain to us how you came up with your theories, and then tell us what the theories are.
Well, I come from a pretty dysfunctional background, and because of that, and because of the fact I was really wildly bullied in school, tried to commit suicide in the eighth grade. So I turned into one of those angry teenagers. You know the ones, right? And when my mother finally fell down a flight of stairs and broke her hip and ended up in the hospital, even she couldn't get a gin and tonic at the hospital. So she dried out. We became closer than sisters. I mean, tight. And then 3 years later, she died of breast cancer, which I actually am a breast cancer survivor of 12 years. But when she died, I realized that if I didn't do something to change, and I always knew there was something out there for me, I never could really put my finger on it. I knew I was going to die. So I quit drinking. It was the only New Year's resolution I ever kept. I think I'm up to, what year is it? 35 years.
Wonderful.
And thank you, when you go through that process, you have to make amends. You have to do your fourth step. I believe it's a fourth step. And I was painfully shy back then. And I'm an extroverted introvert now because I taught myself how to do it. But the thought of reaching out to somebody to say you're sorry to, when the potential of them yelling at me, no, I didn't want to. And we didn't have texting. I would have done that easily. Texting? Yeah, I might have even emailed them. Sure. We didn't have that back then, you know. So I kind of paid lip service to it, said, I'm sorry, I apologize. But there was no emotional attachment to it. There was no energy behind the words. But the more I said it, the better I felt. So I kind of just bumbled through life, and I ended up one of the founders of the concierge industry, which means I did a lot of training for customer service and teaching people how to be a concierge. Well, I can teach you the most beautiful words in the world. I can teach you how to act, how to do all of that. But if you're angry, it's going to bleed through your body language, whether you wanted to or not. So putting together that program led me to forgiveness, because back then you didn't introduce a soft topic in a business workshop. You know that. No, you
Right.
didn't. Now you practically blackballed me. But I had to figure out a way that they could lose their anger without leaving their station. And that's how it all started. And then in 2020, I finally figured out the secret sauce to it. But the problem with forgiveness is everybody wants you to forgive. Your teachers, your pastor, everybody tells you to forgive. Nobody teaches you how. And what if you don't want to? Then what do you do? What if they're unforgivable? What do you do then? So that's how I came up with the step-by-step system.
It's interesting. I grew up with two loving parents, but in the back of my mind, I believed my mother and I had a love-hate relationship. I was always reaching out to her. She would reach out to me. We were on the outside, we were happy with each other. And I remember sitting down with my mother in law at one time, who I was best friends with. And I said to her, why can't I have this relationship with my mother? And she said, I have it with your mother. And I realized it wasn't my mother, it was something about me. I was
Yeah.
hearing my mother's words in a certain way, and I didn't have the nerve to say to her, hey, I'm hearing you say you don't approve of me. When she would say things like that I heard like that, I always said, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, you want me to wear short hair? Okay, I'll go and get my hair cut. But I wasn't being happy about it. And I didn't understand why I was doing it other than to please her, which
Right.
really wasn't pleasing her. So you're right. We aren't taught, we're taught the words, and I
Oh,
use
yeah.
sorry all the time, but am I using it the right way?
And another thing we're taught, a few things. Just because I forgive you doesn't mean I want a relationship with you. I probably don't. Forgiveness doesn't mean repair. And the big problem everybody has, just because I forgive you doesn't mean I'm all of a sudden giving in. It doesn't mean that all of a sudden you're right. I'm not giving in. I'm not coming over to the dark side, as it were. Forgiveness simply means the formal definition is I want you out of my head. Bottom line, I want you out of my head. I want to stop thinking about you. I want to stop dreaming about you. I want you out of my head. But 10 out of 10 people watching and listening to this broadcast, and you included, more than likely, on a 10 scale, with 10 being an unforgivable dumpster fire, horrific, and one being the easiest person in the world to forgive, y'all are thinking of your number 10s. That's
Oh,
why nobody wants to talk about forgiveness because when you think about forgiveness, you immediately go to your unforgivable, the person that messed up your life the most, and then you don't want to do it because it's too painful. And that's fair. I didn't want to do it either. So what my forgiveness system is leave the unforgivables for last. Start with the easy ones. We'll get to the unforgivables. And at the end of the day, you don't even have to forgive the unforgivable. I'm the only one who'll ever say that to you. Why? Because there's a lot of people, places, and things, and I did say places and things, stay with me, that you can forgive before you even get there. But I want you to start with the easy ones.
interesting. So as you're talking about that, I'm thinking about the fact that um, about 45 years ago, I went through a divorce,
Hmm.
and it was a contentious divorce. It was contentious until our son reached the age of maybe 30. So that was a long year
That's a long
time
time.
holding anger, and but I started out with forgiving myself.
Right.
And that's how I got to the point of saying it wasn't all his fault. I don't have to be his best friend, but I don't have to be angry anymore because I went deep inside. And when I realized things that were making me angry, a lot of them were just like little snowflakes, but
Yeah.
I allowed them to pile up before I realized that I had a foot of snow.
And the person you're angry at isn't really usually for the most part is not thinking about you at all, but you're miserable. And being angry, there's a quote by Buddha that I just love. Being angry, Buddha said, is like drinking poison and hoping the other person will die. That's what it's like. But, at the end of the day, you want them out of your head. Now there's another saying that people bandy around, forgive and forget. Okay. I live in the South now, but I was raised in New York City. We're not forgetting anything. Sorry, not going to happen. So, what I can promise you is by using the system that I've come up with, and there's worksheets and all kind of other stuff in the book, but using the system that I've come up with, and I'll talk about the system and give it to you, but using the system will remove the emotional charge. So when you go to Facebook or you go to a party or you see their name on a piece of paper or wherever you see it, you're not going to stare at that name and all of a sudden be back in the saddle and angry again. You're not going to care. You're not going to think good. You're not going to think bad. And it happened to me a number of years ago. I was on Facebook and I saw my ex-business partner from years back. And I stared at the picture and I thought, I don't care. But usually I would stare at the picture and spend 30 minutes being kind of pissed off, excuse my language. But I didn't care. That's when you know you've absolutely forgiven somebody. You don't care. Now, the secret sauce to the whole method is energy. Many people come to me and say, I have forgiven them. Yeah, you did. You did the work. You forgave them. You stumbled on my method and you actually forgave them. But it didn't stick, did it? No, because lured back. You smell a smell, it brings you back. You go and see a picture, it brings you back. You didn't forgive the energy. Einstein clearly proved the energy is neither created nor destroyed. There's a whole chapter in science to back up what I'm saying. And he proved that it just transforms from one thing to another. So when you get angry, what do you think happens? Do you think it leaves your mouth and it just magically dissipates in the world? It does not. It hangs around your energy field until you clear it. So part of my method is the mantra. You don't have to hold any crystals unless you really want to. You don't have to burn any incense unless that's your thing. Knock yourself out. But the mantra that I said is I completely forgive Karen. I forgive the energy around Karen. I forgive myself. I forgive the energy around myself. I forgive the energy around the entire situation. Amen. So help me God. So be it. Godspeed. End it any way you like. That's part of the method. That's the actual mantra. There's more to it than just that. And the energy is the important piece. And Einstein also proved that energy is around everything, including this tiny little microphone that I have in front of me, inanimate object. So that's why you can forgive people, places, and things. I forgave 1974
Okay.
because because that was the year I tried to commit suicide, and I pulled apart the memory, but it was still bothering me. So when we're talking about an unforgivables, it's possible to forgive an unforgivable, but remember, you're not going to get a number 10 person down to a 1 in one sitting. This is a marathon, not a sprint. It's going to take some time. You can get the 10 down to a 9, down to an 8. It's going to take some passes, and you have to wait 24 hours between passes. But I have a friend, and I said, okay, well, she couldn't forgive somebody. I said, all right, well, just forgive the energy around the person. Nope, couldn't do it. It was a really unforgivable, horrible thing. And I said, all right, let's pick apart the memory. So we'll take let's take one of my own memories. Let's take my father. He used to like to lecture us at the kitchen table when he was drunk. Okay. So I wasn't ready to forgive my father. No disrespect, Dad. I have since forgiven him. He's already gone. And you can forgive dead people because it doesn't matter where they are or where they're not, because you don't have to reach out to these people. You're alone in the privacy of your own home. So it doesn't matter. If they're alive and well in your head, you can forgive them. So I forgave my father. He'd already passed. And I picked apart the memory because I wasn't ready to forgive him. So I forgave the table that we used to sit at. I forgave the dining room table. I forgave the chairs. I forgave my sibling and my mom for not really stepping in. I forgave my childhood home and the energy around my childhood home. The table, the bed, the chair, the park, the people. You could always, the date, the city, the place. All of these things can be forgiven within a memory. And that's going to be just enough so you can get your life back. It's like that wall you're talking about. Everybody says here's the wall. Well, let's get the jackhammer out. We're going to get through this wall. No, no. Forgive what you can. Walk around to either side and walk around the dumb thing. Keep going. Circle back when you think you're ready. So forgive the other things in the memory and then circle back later. If you never circle back, that's fine because you're forgiving people you've labeled 1 through 8. That's a lot of people. Your life is going to open up. You're going to feel better.
So let's say you have this memory that goes back 30, 40 years,
Mhm.
which I'm finding seems to be very typical with a lot of women today.
Yep.
Um, I'm reading a lot of it on Facebook, and it's like my first reaction, I would never say it in response, is, why are you holding on it so long? Because I'm not a person that wants to hold on to things long. When something is bothering me, upsetting me, I want to I want to work through it.
Yeah.
But I understand not everybody's that way. So when I read these things, this happened to me 30, 40 years ago, but none of you knew me back then. So I'm walking around and you think I'm okay, but I'm not. I'm a very
Right.
angry person. How do you get that individual to finally say, hey, I can work through this? Because so many of us think we're stuck in that maze. We can't get through it.
Well, a lot of us are stuck in the maze and we don't know we're in the maze. And it's a movie playing in the back of your mind and you don't even know it's there. You have no idea it's there. I have people coming to me saying, I have nobody to forgive. Okay. I'm not bashing men, but it's usually men. No disrespect. Don't email me, but it is what it is, right? So for the next week, I want you to say, I completely forgive myself for not being able to forgive and the energy around that thought every night before you go to bed. What that's going to do is it's going to open up that back closet of your mind that's been padlocked for the last bunch of decades, and memories are going to stream out. Why? Because your brain is a brilliant tool. It's protecting you. And it's looking and saying, oh, Karen's ready. Okay, now I'm going to open up that closet or that drawer. She's ready. And I'm going to flood you with memories. Oh, joy. A lot of people call this shadow work. It's not easy. Shadow work, excuse my language, but it sucks because you have to deal with all these memories. So, what I want you to do is I want you to sit down and I want you to write a list. I really would prefer a pen and paper. Young people I know want to use their phone, but there have been studies that have absolutely proven, and there's thousands of them out there that have proved there's something magical that happens when it goes from the brain down your arm to with a piece of paper. It seems to stick more than when you just write it on your phone. Not sure why. So I want you to write it. I want you to write down all the people you think you need to forgive. All of them. Don't judge what you're writing. If you write something weird down there, leave it. A friend of mine wrote down a little red wagon. No idea why it came to her head, and she wrote it down. She had no memory of a little red wagon, but it was on the list, so she forgave it. Then I want you to rate these people or things if you put something down, or your childhood home. You could write my childhood home. You could do that too. I don't care. This is your party. Then I want you to rate them from 1 to 10. Now you could have 15 number fours. I don't care. You could skip a number. I also don't care. But I want you to start with the ones and I want you to work your way up through the list. And what I want you to do is we'll take a number one person, easy person. Maybe they cheated off your paper in grammar school. Maybe it's somebody who just cut you off on I-95 South. Maybe it's the person who stole your parking spot at the grocery store. Easy people.
Yeah.
Maybe it's something you saw in the news. Easy, easy people. It's somebody really, really easy. And you can look at it and say, yeah, I can toss that one. I don't know why I'm still angry about that. That's easy. It doesn't have to be Moses parting the water. And then I want you to be all alone. You don't have to reach out to anybody. You don't have to make amends. Nobody has to know you're doing this. You don't have to tell a soul. And then I want you to imagine in your mind's eye the person standing in front of you as you knew them when you had the problem. So if it's a kid from grammar school, remember the kid from grammar school. If you can't imagine them in your mind's eye, put a chair in front of you and talk to the chair. And you just pretend that they're sitting in the chair. That's fine. Then I want you, if you need to get it out, verbally assault them. You're alone in a room. It's your party. You can cry if you want to, right? So do whatever you want. And then I want you to say the mantra with your hand over your heart, because the words are really just for us stupid humans. It's the energy behind the words where the magic is. And after you've said the mantra, check in with your body. Are they still a number one, or is it gone? Did your number one, or is it a number three person and has gone down to a two? Brilliant. Write a number two next to their name. This happened to a friend of mine. It was a number three person. I was leading her through it because I'm a forgiveness coach. And the three jumped up to a seven. That's not supposed to happen. What happened? That closet in the back? Yeah, baby. It opened up and it flooded her with memories that she'd forgotten about. And all of a sudden, she was pissed. So she changed the three to a seven and we put it back in the mix. And just keep working your way through. And when you're done, just imagine the person leaves the room. When I originally did this, I was sitting on my bed and I originally imagined they walked out to the right, which was through the window. And I thought, okay, they're falling to their death. I can't do that. So, and I'm a writer, so I'm very literal. So I had to imagine they walked out to the left down the hall. But you're going to feel better. Now, why are you going to feel better? To anybody listening to this broadcast, I'm about to hold a purple coffee cup right in front of my face. This purple cup represents anger, self-talk. And when I look at my body language, I'm doing a session with you and you look at me and say, Katharine, you're angry. No, I'm not, Karen. I can manage my anger. I've got this. Well, because I can. Look at my body language. I am managing it. It's fine. But the longer I hold on to it, the more stuff I'm going to put into it because humans irritate other humans, don't we? So eventually, now I have two hands holding up the cup. And it's starting to interfere with my life now. So now the one is turning into like a five. Why? Because it's starting to get into my conversations. It's starting to bother me. That's how you know how to rate people. And if I continue to hold on to it, well, now it's a 10. Might be a 7, 8, 9, 10 because I'm holding it in front of my face now. My life is stopped. It's all I can talk about. It's all I can think about. It's all I do. I mean, even if I spin the stories funny, I'm still talking about it. So using my forgiveness method and clearing the ones, twos, threes, and fours, well, that's going to allow me to move it back over to the side. Now look, look at my language now. My life has opened up again. And eventually I can put the cup down and I can see that dream significant other. I can see the new money making opportunity or a new way to lose weight or a new home that I want to buy. Why didn't I see it before? Because I was too focused on my anger. That's why I couldn't. And even if I didn't realize I was focused on my anger, the movie playing in the back of my head was permeating my self-talk and it was acting as a shield.
Well, you've just opened up some ideas to me. So Christmas Eve,
Mhm.
um, I tripped in my own house, so wasn't out on the ice or anything, and I broke my shoulder and my humerus. So
Oh, I'm
my
sorry.
right arm, okay. And I've been saying to myself since the break, it took 10 days to have surgery. Now I'm 3 weeks post surgery.
Mhm.
But this morning I said to my husband, I'm not feeling me,
Right.
realizing that part of it is I'm angry.
You're angry at yourself
Yep.
for falling.
And I'm doing all the things that I'm being told to do to get better. But every time I do it, it's like I'm not happy. I'm happier just sitting back and doing nothing. So I'm sort of been pushing myself. You're going to do your podcast. You're going to do your coaching. You're going to make dinner, but inside, and I didn't realize until you started talking, I'm angry with the injury and myself.
Your broken arm is your number 10.
Yep,
So I
absolutely.
want you to, if you don't mind me using you as a guinea pig for
Sure.
everybody, I want you to pick apart that memory. You're not ready to forgive yourself because I can see it in your body language, but you could forgive. I'm trying to word this correctly. Forgive the reason you tripped. Don't think about why you tripped. It was a rug. It was this. Just say, I forgive the reason that I tripped and the energy around that thought. I forgive my arm for breaking and the energy around my arm. I forgive the floor for not breaking my fall the way I wanted it to and the energy around the floor. And then the third thing is I completely forgive myself and the energy around myself. I forgive the cast and the sling and the energy around that. I forgive the doctors who gave me this horrible, horrible diagnosis and the energy around it. That's how I forgave myself for getting breast cancer. I'm 12 years cancer free. I forgave cancer. Said, I forgive breast cancer and the energy around breast cancer. I forgive myself and the energy around myself. I forgave the chemo chair, the chemo drip, the infusion. I forgave the doctors and the surgeons. I forgave radiation. I forgave the 10 operations. I forgave all of it and it freed me. So you need to forgive the house, the floor, your arm, the sling, the doctors, the surgeons, whatever it is, whatever pieces. Forgive yourself. Forgive your family for not being there to catch you. I mean, I know that's a little outrageous, but forgive every part of that memory that you can think of and the energy around all of this and keep doing it. And I promise it's going to open you up. Forgive the podcast because I have to do the podcast, but my arm hurts. So I forgive the podcast and the energy around the podcast, and I forgive my arm for preventing me from doing the podcast.
That's a lot of forgiving.
Well, that's the unforgivables is a bear. It is a bear. That's why I teach people to pick apart the memory, because you may not be able. This is the first book of three, and the second book, which I'm actually writing as we speak, is how to forgive yourself. And I just walked you through how to forgive just one memory of yourself. People might have dozens of memories of themselves that they need to forgive themselves for. So my method is the same. You write down a list of all the things you think you need to forgive within that memory. So you're going to write down, and I want you to do it before bed because the body heals itself before bed when it's sleeping. So I want you sometime today to write down everything you can think you need to forgive, no matter how crazy stupid it sounds. And then I want before bed tonight, I want you to forgive it.
Okay.
And the just keep doing it. And the reason I want you to do it at night is because this is serious science. So anger is toxic. It makes you sick. Okay. You know, I'm an overachiever. How? Why? Don't just tell me that. Tell me the reason. I've been told that since I was a kid. Okay, I believe you. My parent, everybody said it. How? It's not that I'm a scientist, but I kind of want to know. Anger is something you can't see. So how's it entering my body? Kind of want to know that. There's a study done in Japan. It's called the Japanese water study. And in the interest of time, I'll say it real fast. You can Google it. It's right online. And his guy's name is Matsumoto, something like that. You'll see it. And what he did is he studied two containers of water, probably more, but we're simplifying it. One container of water he spoke negative things to. It's all he did. He put the container in front of him and he blasted it with negativity, said the most nasty things he could possibly say. The other container of water he spoke love to, told it how much he loved it. Then he froze the water and he put it under a microscope. The water he spoke love to had these beautiful crystal formations. They're right online. It's really interesting. The water he spoke hate to had these black and brown malformations. It was just ugly. So why am I telling you this? Your body is 95% water. So when you have bad self-talk and you're angry and you're miserable, what do you think you're doing to the water cells within your own body? Drop the mic on that one, right?
And that's an image that I think I know that I'm seeing right now, saying, wow, that's
Yeah,
not what I thought I was doing to myself. I
exactly.
thought I was making myself get better, but holding on to the anger. And I didn't think of it as anger until
Right.
you talked about it. And it's like, well, maybe that's why I'm like just getting through the day.
Well,
And
being
everybody,
grumpy is the same thing as anger, isn't it? You're grumpy. It's all just negativity. You can be bitter, you can be resentful, you can be grumpy, but you can put all of that into a pot. Whatever it is, you're not being positive about things. You're not showing the love emotion. And I'm a cancer survivor. I sat on my pity pot for a long time. And I got mad at myself for getting breast cancer. Now, was it my fault at the end of the day? Probably not. My grandmother had it. My mother had it. I do not carry the BRCA gene. There must be something else, but I got it. So at the end of the day, I had to release myself because I was the prisoner, because it was all rolling around in my head. But even all of those emotions, eventually, even if you can't forgive yourself, you can pick apart memories. And that's at the end of the day, that's going to make you feel better because you're going to go from here with the broken arm and now all of a sudden your anger is kind of going to dissipate a little bit and you're going to start to feel better. But I only want you to do 10 forgiveness people, places, and thing a night.
okay.
When I originally came up with this, I am definitely an overachiever, written 12 books. And I thought I got on my list must have been like 50 people. And I thought this is going to be great. I'm going to be like a phoenix rising from the ashes. I'm going to be like a butterfly released from the cocoon. I'm going to be a brand new person tomorrow. Okay, didn't exactly work out the way I wanted it to. And of course it didn't, because I spent the next 3 days in bed with what everybody thought was a stomach flu. It was not the stomach flu. Remember those water cells I was talking about? Well, they have to go someplace. And if you only do anywhere from 3 to 10, your body can easily transmute those while you're sleeping. But if you do more than that, it might have to go into overdrive and you might be in the bathroom for a little bit. You didn't eat a piece of bad fish. It's just your body transmuting some stuff that you've been holding on to for entirely too long. And most people get really tired, which is why I want you to do it before bed. Some people, their shoulders feel lighter. My older son did it. He's a federal law enforcement officer, and his shoulders legitimately felt lighter, and he thought it was really weird. A lot of people, I feel movement in my solar plexus. And for anybody who doesn't know, it's right in the middle of your body, right above your belly button, kind of
Right?
right under your chest. I feel movement there. And you'll there will be some part of your body that will feel something, and just keep at it. And if you only forgive the one person, and then if you don't forgive, if you can't, doesn't work, like your number 10 doesn't move, wait 24 to 48 hours and do it again. Only do one upper level person a night. Spend most of your time with the lower level people.
So that what we're doing is we're taking those baby steps
Yep. You're chipping
to get
away at
to
it.
it because eventually 10 will come up to 4, 3, and 1.
Yep. I got my number 10. I had a couple number 10s, and I got them from a 10 down to a 9, down to an 8. And then it kind of jumped to like a 6 and stayed there for a while. And then I managed to get it to a 4, still wasn't ready to let it go. And eventually I was able to do it. How long did it take me? I had three number 10s, and one of them took about a few weeks. The second one took a few months. The last one, which was almost unforgivable, that one was a bear, and it took me months and months and months. But they didn't stay a number 10. I mean, for most of those months, they were like a 5, 6, 7, which meant my life was 100% more manageable because I wasn't thinking about it all the time. It was kind of out. So now I can look back at my childhood, which was very dysfunctional, and I can see the love that was there. I can see the adults that were trying to help that young kid. Now, do I remember the horrible stories? I suppose I could if I tried, but I've literally changed the memory. It's kind of what everybody says, forgive and forget. You're never going to forget, but you can change the emotional reaction. You can change the emotions. So now I look back and I see it from a different perspective. I didn't have that perspective before, but I do today. So when I go to family reunions, now my family's mostly dead now, but when I used to go to family reunions, I didn't care. Hey, I'm the queen of keeping the conversation on you and talking about the weather. Just because I've forgiven you, doesn't mean I still want a relationship with you and I want to talk to you. I don't, but I'm the queen of, sure, how are you? How are the kids? Beautiful weather. I'm the queen of it. I'm a
I've done that.
concierge. I can do small talk with the best of them.
So you have how many books that you've written?
12.
12 books.
Some of them are out of print. The ones that you guys will be interested in is The Ultimate Path to Forgiveness, Unlocking Your Power, which is the one I have now. It's available on Amazon in paperback, ebook, and audiobook form because I understand most people don't like to read. And I have a couple of others. The Little Bird on Your Shoulder will teach you how to tap into your intuition. And if you're really interested, Rainbows and Banana Peels is about my cancer journey.
Love it. Absolutely love it. And we're so glad that your cancer journey turned out to be a positive journey. And I know there are many people out there who say cancer can't be positive, but I've seen many, many people who have gotten through it and are on the best side of their life.
I
So
had stage 3 triple positive breast cancer. And when you have dinner with the Grim Reaper and you don't go home with the guy, it changes you. I have been known to say, it's like Steinbeck's quote. I think it was George Steinbeck who said it was the best of times and it was the worst of times. And that kind of sums up cancer. It's the only reason I'm saying it was the best of times is because I have a different perspective of life right now. And if I hadn't gone through cancer, you and I probably wouldn't be talking. So it gave me a new path to walk, and it gave me a brand new perspective about life that I didn't have before. I mean, it's too bad that people have to go to the brink and the bottom before they can really say, oh, well, here, smell some coffee. I mean, cancer was awful, but at the same time, it gives you, if you survive it, which I did, it gives you a new perspective. And for those of you who are living with stage 4, something horrible, I have a bunch of friends who are still alive today, and they were diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and they are still here 5, 6, 7 years later. So it's not the death sentence you think it is.
I have to thank you, Catherine, for everything. And I'm going to write down my 10 And I'm
Mhm.
going to start doing that at night because, like said in the beginning, I had no idea that this was my anger, but I noticed something this morning before we even came online that why am I feeling this way? It's not that I'm in a lot of discomfort. I'm in some discomfort, but I'm taking it and it's brewing. So now I got to find a way to forgive it. And starting off with the first thing that I hit, which was a step, I'm going to forgive that step and go
Forgive the
forward.
step. And also I forgive myself for being angry about this situation and the energy around this thought. Because you're so angry, the first couple nights, I would keep it really, really simple. And I would keep it general. I'm forgiving the anger, I'm forgiving the step and the energy around the step, and I'm forgiving the anger and the energy around the anger. And I think that's a brilliant way to start. But remember, forgiveness is like an onion, and you're going to peel back layers. That's why we're never done with it. Because eventually you get to the center of the onion. I thought I was done years ago. I got to the center, everybody's forgiven. Another damn onion appeared.
Yep.
There it was. It's like, oh man, nuts. So you're never, and I wrote the book on it literally. So you're never really you're never really done. This is a practice I practice nightly.
Well, I
But
want to
try and
thank
not, I'll tell you 10 people, my friend Katie, she'll tell you don't do more than three a night.
you.
But anywhere between three and 10.
Sounds wonderful. And we can find all this information at your website, correct?
My website is katharinegiovanni.com. And Catherine, thanks to my mother, is spelled a little bit strangely. Thanks, Mom. Katharine Giovanni.com.
I and I noticed that when I was writing you, and it was like, did Podmatch get that wrong, or is that
No,
how?
yeah, it was my mother. That
Well,
was my,
she wanted you to stand out, and we
I guess
appreciate
she
that.
did. I guess she did.
Well, it was wonderful talking to you, and best of luck as you continue to move forward. And send our regards to your son for all the great work he's doing.
I will. Thanks so
Have a
much.
great day. Bye bye now.